You are in the right place, trust me. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to let a few more people in the room before we get started. You are at 2021 Advocacy Engagement Tools. This is part 2. So just to check and make sure that you're in the right place. All right, so we are at today's webinar. Hello, everyone. 2021 Advocacy Engagement Tools, part 2 of our legislative campaign for this year. While we're getting started, I'd like to ask you to write your name and agency in the chat area. That will help us out. Thank you, Wayne, for starting us out. Greetings to you too, so that we know who's attending our webinar. And in the meantime, I'm introducing myself. I'm Adriana Sanchez-Aldana. I'm the Executive Director of the California Council for Adult Education, CCAE. And today's webinar is being brought to you in collaboration with the California Adult Education Administrators Association, CCAE. So if we can go on to slide 2, I've got a couple of logistical items that I'd like to go through with you. And first and foremost is that all the lines are muted. So if you have a question or comment, please use the chat area that you're filling in right now with your names and agency names to submit your questions or comments to Branca during her presentation. Victoria Bate, Steve Curiel, and I will be monitoring the chat and bring those questions to Branca at the end of her presentation. She has a lot of information for you today. We're so delighted. So we'll have questions at the end. Many of you have asked if the webinar is being recorded, and the answer is yes. It's being recorded and it will be emailed to members after the webinar, and also it'll be on the CCAE website. You can find last Friday's webinar as well as today's webinar on the website, and feel free to tell your friends and other colleagues who haven't been able to tune in with us live to go to the website and view the webinars. It's extremely important to continue to share our experiences through our legislative advocacy. At the bottom of this slide, you can see that the agenda includes a walkthrough of advocacy tools and opportunity to share and ask questions. With Branca, she's also provided a breakdown of how this year's legislative activities and the CCAE State Conference will unfold virtually, all online, during the week of April 19th, which we are planning to have designated as Adult Education Week in the state of California. And shortly on the CCAE website, we'll be able to provide to you a template of a resolution that you can use and customize to your program so that you can take it to your board and have them also declare the week of April 19th as Adult Education Week in the state of California. So I think with that, oh, and also the state conference, again, online, April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, you can see there at the bottom of the agenda. And Branca's also highlighted that we have the CCAE State Conference also online February 4th, and you can go to their website, CCAE.org, Steve, I believe. Or actually you can Google CCAE and it is like first right up at the top, and get to their conference registration as well. As always, I'd like to thank Burlington English and GED Testing Service for their continued support of our organization's legislative activities. And if we go on to the next slide, today's presenter is Branca Marchetta, CCAE Executive Board Member at Large, representing the Northern Section. Victoria Bate, CCAE State Ledge Chair and Director, College and Career and Adult Education Programs at Mount Diablo. And Steve Curiel, the Vice President of Legislation of CCAE, as well as principal of Huntington Beach Adult School, and I'm your host. I'd also like to recognize the section legislative chairs who help coordinate and support the work that you all do at the local level. This is definitely a joint effort, and we really thank and appreciate the work that they do. Thank them for their work and appreciate all of it. And of course, many thanks to David Palmer, CCAE Office Manager, for managing the webinar and logistics for us. And so now I'll turn the webinar over to Branka Marchetta. Branka?
Okay, hello friends and colleagues. It is very exciting to be here and be sharing things that I've learned over the years. I like to say that adult education in California invested in me over the past decade and so this is my way of giving back things that I've learned in my jobs so far regarding being engaged in various ways in promoting our adult education programs. So this is what we're talking about. This is a follow-up on our this January 15th webinar, and sorry, we are going to actually look at some specific tools, and then we will also do a demo of CCAE website. And many of you will be mentioned in this presentation, so don't be surprised based on the group of participants here. Okay. Again, as an overview, we will go over CCAE's website, specifically the newly rolled out web pages, also nicknamed Advocacy Hub. We'll spend quite a bit of time there. We'll take a look at the timeline for action that came out of last week's webinar. We will also demonstrate how to use the new tool that CCAE has been using for the past year or so to send a quick message, email message to our legislators. Also the emphasis on uniform message, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. We also are going to talk about tools we have used, many of us have used already, fact sheets and social media. We will talk about setting up meetings with our legislators. We will talk about how to engage and celebrate during the week of April 19th through 25. And we'll mention also CCAE and CCAE Political Action Committee. So these are some ways we could be engaging our stakeholders, not only our legislators that represent us in Sacramento, but really any stakeholder within our community. And I'll also try to touch on that as we go through the presentation. Again, fact sheets, social media. I can't stress enough the importance of curating your own success stories, gathering them in one place and on an ongoing basis. Again, we'll talk about setting up online meetings and building ongoing relationships with your local legislators, and we also would like to emphasize the need to grow and nurture advocacy champions in your adult education programs. And then also we're asking you to let us, CCAE and CCAE, know who those advocates are. We've had a number of conversations over the past so many weeks about the fact that, administrator is sometimes very busy, and there's teachers and support staff and others from our big adult education family who sometimes have a knack for more of that advocacy piece, or just have, by the nature of who they are, relationships with local stakeholders and the legislators in Sacramento. And we ask that you identify those in your adult education program and in your region and tell us about them so we can engage those folks more within CCAE and CCAE. This is a slide from Dawn's presentation from January 15th, where she shared with us what the legislative and budget timeline looks like for us here in California. And this is to one more time emphasize the need for all of us to act now and to continue on acting and engaging our stakeholders all the way through the end of June. And then when the new school year comes around, do it all again. We'll actually go into that a little bit more as we look at the website. So as I mentioned, Advocacy Hub, check the website frequently. Also, I want to ask you to check your email spam and junk folders for CCAE communication. Again, what we've realized just over the last couple of weeks or so, or maybe months, that as CCAE uses specialized tools to send mass emails, sometimes those emails end in your spam folders and junk folders. And your school districts, if you receive them at your school district email address, they have also tightened their security and their filters. So please go into your junk folder and mark CCA folders as, or emails as you whitelist them or mark them as not junk if you're using Microsoft Office or whatever tool you use. And also, yes, let's go look at the website. I'm gonna hit pause for a second so that I can switch to the website. Also, I'm gonna ask Adriana if there are any comments so far or questions while I'm switching to this.
So the only question that I see is there a link for non-CCAE members to email their reps? And actually, it says, I think the one available is for members only, isn't it? And that, I believe, is not the case. Right now, our link to Ignite is for everyone. Isn't that correct, Victoria?
Yes.
Yeah.
Victoria's muted.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. You just go to the website and it is accessible to the public. You can have friends and family also participate. They do need to be, though, in the area of the legislator. So you wouldn't want to have, let's say, a family member who's in another state necessarily to be sending something to our local legislators.
Right. Anybody within the state of California works. Thank you.
So you should see the website right now. Just nod your head, please, Adriana or Victoria, if you can see it. So, okay. So let me show you one more time how to get there. If you're on CCA's website, you click on advocacy, and that will take you to Advocacy Hub, which is this page. And then you'll see a number of subsections. You can see the call for action here at the top, and then a number of subsections. David nicely summarized the 4 legislative priorities for us at this time. Number 1, advocate for maintaining current CAPE funding, and of course, whatever came in the budget proposal, that 1.5 or more. If there's also the link to the talking points for that. Then number 2, carryover criteria. Dawn talked about that in detail. Number 3, funding distributions. Again, a link to talking points. And number 4, ed code cleanup, and a link to talking points. So this will help you as you make those virtual visits to your legislators to put this on their agenda and make sure that we as a field are uniform in our message on what our priorities are. We are a big field compared to other states. We have quite a few practitioners in adult education field, and we are so different programs, very unique. And at any given time, we may have slightly different priorities for our specific region or our specific school. But it is very important for all of us to come together to the legislators and decision makers with one uniform message. And these are the 4 priorities that majority of us have as priorities at this time. The priorities change and as times change, but also the legislative process is kind of slow. So we have to stick with what we agree to as a group, what our priorities are. And these are the 4 priorities. So please use these talking points and mention them in your visits and in your meetings. So I'm going to demonstrate how to use this quick email tool. You click on email your reps and you will have this button on the website in multiple places. This was the easiest, the most visual one for me right here from this advocacy hub in the second section. So I'm going to click on that, email your reps. And so this is the tool. What David did is he embedded it in the page. And because I've done this quite a few times, both through COABE and through CCAE, my computer already remembers my name and my information. So you can see this is my address, my email, my phone number. You do have to provide that information in order for the database to now go and search for your representatives based on your zip code. So I also told it to remember me and to send me emails as follow-up. So when I click on submit, it'll pull up the governor, lieutenant governor. My local representatives are Senator Richard Pan, Assembly Member Ken Cooley, and Attorney General. It also goes to the Attorney General. I can check or uncheck if I don't want the message to go to the list, everybody on the list. I choose to have everybody, to send it to everybody. The message subject is already filled in and the message is filled in. Now, this is what our advocacy leaders have put together for us as a message. You have the option to modify a little bit if you want to. So often I will sometimes put in a little bit of information about my local program as a representative of the Adult Education Regional Consortium in the Greater Sacramento area. I'm writing to talk to you about this topic. So you can make it a little more personalized if you wanted to, or you can use it the way it is. This time around, I'm going to use it the way it is. It also remembers this is what you will, if you're doing it for the first time, you will have to fill this in, the greeting, or maybe not. Maybe it pulls from when you filled out that form in the first step. And you click submit. And it's as quick as that. So just for a little bit of feedback in the chat, if you can put in the chat if you have tried this before, if you've used this tool or a tool like this before. Yes, so I see some yeses. I see an I love it, which is good, very easy to use, good. Excellent, good. Okay, so we really wanted to demonstrate it one more time. Okay, and you can send as many as you'd like. You also got, you will get the message, confirmation message that it was sent. Okay, so let me show you a little more. We're gonna go back to the main page and Advocacy Hub. I'm gonna go to CCAE homepage, go under Advocacy Hub. And I want to point out the timeline for the legislative calendar again. Thank you, David, for doing such a nice visual job for all of us. So when you click on the timeline there, you see what the milestones are for all of us. So what Dawn and our legislative leaders are asking us to do is to start making those arrangements for those online meetings with our legislators as early as now, really, or as early as last week. So you can see here as a visual, please contact your legislators. And then as we move on into January, schedule some of those into February, you can schedule some of those meetings. Also, as we approach April, try to make those meetings happen towards the end of March, early April, because we've seen that work really well for us for advocacy. And then when you also look at the timeline that Dawn provided about what happens at the Capitol with decision making, this is the best time to approach the legislators and talk to them about us and our value. Then this will be leading into the week, Adult Education Week. And we're hoping that for the 19th and the 20th, Monday and Tuesday, we'll have a number of activities as a part of the Adult Education Week and connected to the conference, where we come together and talk about how our meetings went and our advocacy efforts went. So that would be that also Monday and Tuesday. But we don't stop there. We continue through May, because as you know, there is a May revision, right? And then also at the end of June is when by statute, the government of California needs to have a budget established for next year. So really the message is get those meetings going, but also continue on creating more opportunities to meet with your legislators and your local stakeholders. Let me see if I can also highlight some other parts of, yes. So we'll talk a little bit more about social media, but I wanted to provide here the templates that also David has created for us. So when you click on that section, you can really do it as quickly as click to tweet. And this would work for me because Assembly Kevin McCarty got his high school diploma at San Juan Adult Ed, which is here local to Sacramento. And he's actually a big supporter of our system. I think it was a year ago when he was tweeting about his experience as someone who received his adult high school diploma from an adult school. So see how quickly I'm already logged into my Twitter account. I already have at Assembly Kevin McCarty there, hashtag for adult education, and our hashtag support K-12 adult ed, and it's ready to go. So I'm going to tweet it. I usually like to also add a local story or an image that we have from our adult education schools in the region.
Ronka,
So, yes.
could I, there was a question that came up in the chat pod, and I think it might behoove us to answer it now because it was about the letter that goes to legislators. And we have apparently some, at least, who are participating today who have used Ignite and COABE and done the national campaign for advocacy for adult education. So the question really is about duplication if they do it through COABE or CCAE. So could you answer that, please, to clarify for the benefit of everyone?
Yes. If you're doing it through COABE, your messaging is going to be different because it's going to be about a national funding, primarily WIOA funding, as opposed to our local CCAE California funding and topics and priorities, advocacy priorities. So when you go through CCAE's website, you do see COABE there, co-branded, and it is COABE's tool that we're also, as you know, that when you're CCA members, you're also COABE members, and we are an affiliate. So we're using their tool for our specific messaging for California when we do it from CCA's website. And when you read the content of the message, you'll see that it's specific to California, and it addresses your local or state leaders and legislators. When you do it through COABE, the most recent one was about us including in 1 billion COVID relief. That one goes to a different set of legislators. It goes to those representing you in Washington. So there is no really duplication, right? It's different messaging.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also you can see now, David also programmed this Twitter page, Twitter templates page to also feed in any tweets that contain our new support K-12 adult ed hashtag. So as you tweet about it, and maybe some of you could do it, we could come back and see who tweeted today during our webinar. Okay. That's another section of the website. And at the bottom, you can also find the section on inspirational stories, student success stories, and a spotlight on legislators, and also more advocacy opportunities. So that is the Advocacy Hub. And again, email your reps is in the middle of the page there, the blue button. Okay. I'm gonna pause again so I can switch to the PowerPoint. and also provide for opportunity for any comments.
Right. I think that Victoria picked up that one from about the duplication of national versus statewide initiatives and or letters. And the thing is, when you go through the CCAE website, you get specifically the letter for our state advocacy. And we have the state legislators' information in our portion of Ignite. So yeah, that's the other way of looking at it. And when you go in through COAB's website, you get a national letter, and you go in through their link, you get a national letter. And that was one of the questions. We also had a request. Steve, you handled a question from Gail.
Yes, Gail was asking if we're going to do the proclamation again this year. I believe Dawn's work, she typically will take care of that for us, so that should be in the works. And I will say regarding the COAB outreach or advocacy efforts and our state, I would highly recommend doing both. Both are critical to us in terms of funding. Our federal grant or WIOA grant, you guys hear about it, or you teachers referred as CASAS, maybe. That's 20% of most of our state funding that comes in through WIOA. So that's another advocacy effort we want to make sure we're paying attention to and putting our efforts into.
And one last comment, Bronca, before you go on, and this was a suggestion from Cynthia Eagleton to create when you mentioned checking our junk email folder or our spam folder, she suggested creating a filter to catch CCAE emails and put them in a folder that you've created for CCAE in your email system so that you can check that folder as a part of your routine. They'll go directly there. So anyway,
Excellent.
that's for now.
Very good. And now you can see my slide, right, where I share a message that I sent in October through CCAE Tool. And what I want to tell you, I remember when we started using this with COAB first a couple of years ago, we were so excited. You will hear back from your representatives. So this, I think you can see the timestamp from my representative, Ami Bera, and what he's in Washington for me and my community. I actually got to meet him in Washington also as a part of COAB's visit to the legislators to the Hill, similarly to what we do here in California when we come to Sacramento. And you can see that, like as I said, the date is October 2020. So they do respond. They have staff. And this specific tool, there are many tools like this that are being used by various professional associations and entities, but this tool has the reputation of really staff in these legislative offices receiving and responding to our messages. So they do get there for sure. So just wanted to, if you needed another incentive to do this, or maybe ask someone else to do this as well as a friend of adult education. So I think this was the main focus for us as a follow-up to our Friday webinar, but we also want to talk about what other tools we have been using and we could use more to engage our stakeholders, as we said, the ones in Sacramento and also the ones locally. So let's talk about social media a little bit. So we know that legislators and politicians use Twitter a lot. Twitter is, you can find, even if you don't have a Twitter account, you can go type in Twitter/search and then look for a specific hashtag, and you can see the posts about that hashtag, or you could look for the specific person. You can see their posts publicly. You also can, if you're on specific websites, you can see the feed like the one that David programmed for us. So it's a little more visible to a degree than let's say Facebook, because for Facebook, you do have to have an account, and it will for a short time flash that post for you, but then it'll cover it up with that prompt for you to create an account. So I think those are some reasons why everybody is using Twitter more for this very, very public messaging. And that's also where we want to go, right? With posting the great things about our adult education programs and things we do. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be posting on Facebook and Instagram as well and other social media. We had a really fun conversation in our Northern Section meeting a couple of months ago. We were looking at creating a TikTok about adult ed. So, you know, it's a big platform right now. We don't know how effective that would be, but it would be fun for sure. Also, if you don't do this much, the one thing you can do is, but you have an account, you can share CCA's posts, right? CCA posts, you find it on Twitter and then you repost, or you find a number of adult ed people that you trust and they speak on social media the way you would speak, and you can repost their posts. And always, you know, reposts from success stories from all the programs, adult education programs. So those are some ways to just overall use social media. And for some of us, sometimes we just still need a little bit of understanding. How does this work, right? So we know about the concept of hashtag, and then there's a concept of handle. So handle is really an account that someone has. And earlier, as I demonstrated, I sent a tweet at Assembly member Kevin McCarthy. So that is the account that he uses for his Twitter. That is his handle, at Kevin McCarthy. If I posted it without tapping him on the shoulder, his staff and he would never really look for my tweet about adult education. That's why it's very, very important to do that tap on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm addressing you. So that shows up in their notifications and they see it. And then the hashtag is your tribe, your people, your topic. So how do you know that you're having a great success with high school graduates this year, and you want to talk about it, but you don't really put hashtag adult ed? Who's going to find you if they are not looking for adult ed, or if you don't put adult ed in? So that's why you need the handle if you want someone specific to read your tweet, and you need the hashtag to say, I belong to adult ed. So these are some Twitter handles that I use a lot and that are useful. You can tell CCAE state that you're sending these posts so that CCAE also can repost. There's the governors. There's the superintendent of public instruction. He's very big on Twitter too. He uses it a lot. I like that fourth one the most. When we go to our CAEA conferences, usually we have someone from Department of Finance, and I try to post that day when someone like that is talking to us, and I like to thank them, and then I use that handle. Also, some other entities that we should be aware of: California Department of Education Adult Education Office, CAPE office, and then OTAN and CASA system. Those are the projects supporting us as the field. They also have handles or accounts. And then hashtags. Now, there are many, but we want to talk about this one: support K-12 adult ed. We want to urge you to use this hashtag, support K-12 adult ed. This was a suggestion from Cynthia from Friday webinar, as Dawn was talking about this, to understand how important it is to connect your message to this hashtag and say, I belong to this group sending this message, support K-12 adult ed. Also, I learned this from Cynthia in November. It's very important to use that camel case, as she calls it. You need to capitalize. See how S is capitalized, and then K-12 is capitalized, and A and E and adult ed. And that's because as screen readers read these, it's very difficult for them to distinguish. And even just like as you read it as one big word that's all lowercase, it's a little more difficult to distinguish what your message is or what your hashtag is. So that's why it's important to capitalize wherever, then it makes it easier to read it. Also, Cynthia is advising us to give our colleagues enough time to think about how to communicate to students and to take some pictures and also to get permissions. Maybe you need social media, or not social media, media release forms, or maybe you have a system at your school where you, as your students and learners register, they already sign off on that media release form so that you can post on social media. So have all of those as considerations. And for that purpose, I also want to give a shout out to Cynthia and San Mateo Adult School. If you're looking for one Twitter handle to follow, in addition to CCAE State, you should follow San Mateo Adult Ed. There's Cynthia with a frame that she created for all of us for our advocacy days and Ledge advocacy days back in 2008, 19, okay, 20 we skipped, right? But 19, it was a really big, big event. Lots of us came to Sacramento, and this was at that time we were using hashtag Adult Education Matters. However, lots of things transpired since then, and we're switching to K-12, support K-12 adult ed for a variety of reasons. So please understand that the new hashtag for this time is support K-12 adult ed. And then that other photo, also big shout out to San Mateo's Adult Learners Advisory. And Cynthia could correct me if I'm not saying it correctly. She's in the webinar here. And this was taken at CCA's state conference in Fresno in 2018. Okay, so that's social media. There are other Twitter hashtags that you could use in addition to K-12, but if there's one you need to use, that's definitely support K-12 adult ed. There's hashtag CCAE, adult EDU, that's my preferred one. A lot of people use adult ed, adult education, spell it out all the way. Again, support K-12 adult ed. I should have used the camel case there, but Cynthia, I will fix that. Also adult learners or move ahead with adult ed is one that is for the current COABE national campaign. And it's not only COABE, but it's also an association of state directors for adult education. And again, if you're using other social media, please keep on using them as well. Okay. I am going to go through a number of examples here, but before that, let me just stop and check for comments.
No further questions. Victoria, did you want to say something?
Just that there was, we've had some back and forth in the chat pod, Bronca, about the resolution, the annual CCAE resolution to the legislature or proclamation, and local ones. And so we encourage local ones that are carried by your local legislator. It's quite fine. We used to typically introduce ours. It's on our Ledge Day where we all go there. But as you know, Ledge Day is now more like Ledge Week and months. So we don't know exactly when that will be. So I wouldn't worry about having more than one introduced at a session. It'd be highly unlikely we'd have a whole batch. But as I said in the chat pod, wouldn't that be great if we had a number of local legislators bringing forward for adult ed for their local schools, a resolution as well. So I think that will be certainly sorted out by the legislature. So not to worry.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. And yes, I want to just go through a number of examples of our colleagues already curating their success stories by using social media. So this was posted by Roland Adult Ed back in November. And one thing they use here as a good strategy is they are tapping on the shoulder their school district. See, their school district handle is Roland Schools. Can't recommend that enough. Whenever you post, if you're cabinet level members, if you're superintendent, your school board, if as much room as you have for those handles and ats, mentions, do that so that it gets to the right people. And then also they use Race Strong, as in Roland Adult and Career Education, for their hashtag. They did not use Adult EDU or Adult Ed. Here's the next one. Oh, Fontana. I had something else from Fontana in November when I did this, but as I was checking out their Twitter, I was so impressed because they were already posting about pathways for everyone. Is anyone from Fontana here maybe? What a great job. Look, you have adult ed as hashtag, immigrant, things that are important for you. You tagged CDE office, you tagged CAPE office, and you tagged your school district. I'll talk about that publication a little bit later, but a great job on your Twitter, on your tweet from January 13th. Here's another example. Todd's in the group. I saw him early, unless he left already. What a great job, Todd, back in May, as as we were dealing with we were still reeling from what's happening with COVID, stay at home, and graduation ceremony. And what Todd is doing also, as I'm assuming this is somebody who's like a board of education member, or a cabinet level person who attended their graduation and then posted about it. And now Todd is reposting and amplifying that message as Chaffee Adult School. Oh, it says Board of Trustees, right? There you go. That's also a great strategy. Yucaipa Adult School, shout out, celebrating another high school graduate. Throw in that adult ed also and tag your school district. Okay, but what a great, and also the backdrop, that's a great strategy too. I've seen also some schools use like a sign, I graduated, GED, that's in celebrating in that way. I also wanted to show this one by Adriana, because as I did the search for support K-12 adult ed yesterday for that hashtag, there weren't too many, but Adriana did it in her repost of another post from September. So please start using this more and more, support K-12 adult ed. And also I refreshed the one from Barbara earlier. She had someone, the other one that I had was highlighting another aspect of their work, but here she is celebrating in Monterey area. This is Bay Area section, their adult education teacher who received an award. Always a great opportunity to showcase and celebrate, right? And here she tagged CCAE and AXA Region 10. Okay. Twitter and ways to use it. Okay. I don't have that much time, so I'm not going to show this. I was going to show you what we just did recently here within our consortium. Our members rely on us. They do individual marketing and outreach, but also there is a certain amount of funds and certain amount of activities assigned for the consortium levels as a way to do economies of scale. So we have a colleague who specifically creates content for us for adult education, and then we post on social media. And this happened in December. We were interviewing a teacher, you see the man with the green background, and a student from a local adult school. And we actually recorded 45 minutes of video. And then we posted short clips, 2 and 3 minute clips. I was going to show you, or you can find it on our social media, on our Facebook. Here, Robert talks, I asked him, so what's your plan? What's next? And, he pulls up the diploma and we're all cheering and we're so excited that he has it. And then he goes on to tell us that he's been working for Walmart for quite a while. The moment he got that diploma, Walmart made a huge deal of it. He got a promotion and he got a raise, and not just a little raise. He got $10 more an hour in his raise. And he was very excited, and he was making plans for the future. So a very motivational 3-minute clip that we pulled out of the 45-minute recording that we got. And this is such a great testimonial. So I guess I'm encouraging you to do some things along those lines. Your teachers are already in online meetings with your students. Ask if some of the students are willing to do super short testimonials. Stay after class, record it. Teachers now know how to save that recording locally, collect it, post it on social media. And let us know, let also CCAE know. Okay. So let's talk about fact sheets. Let me just kind of stop for a second here and see how the chat's coming along.
I don't think there's anything new in it, Bronca, at the moment.
Okay, good. Fact sheets, very useful as well. As you know, many of us have been creating fact sheets as individual LEAs, local educational agencies, or in CAPE language as individual members, or in just overall adult ed language as individual adult schools, right? So these are some examples that also are on CCAE's website under grassroots. And also I will provide a handout with all of these links. I'll talk about that. So you can see Poway and Huntington Beach and Castro Valley. These were from a couple of years ago, and a variety of approaches and visual effects here for the fact sheets. But this is something that you can then refer to and use as you engage with stakeholders. And everybody would bring them also to Sacramento for Ledge Days. And here's a little bit more of a new trend where consortia are creating a regional fact sheets. So you can see one from San Diego area there. And then also us in Sacramento here, what we do is every month for the business meeting, we create two, one for each of the members. We have 12 members. And then by the end of that process, we create a together consortium level type of the fact sheet. What's also nice about that process is that the information that you get from CASAS is great, but you usually also need that second source of information, like for us specifically high school diplomas, how many high school diplomas were issued, how many vocational certificates, and that works very nicely with the secondary type of looking into data and then creating these fact sheets. And again, you can use them for a variety of purposes. So create, if you haven't done them, create them or commission somebody in your region to do it with you and for you. Okay, and here is where I'm going to talk about existing publications, and I'm going to talk about the fact that CAPE office commissioned over the past so many months, commissioned an entity called Sacramento News and Review. And some of you may be familiar with that because there's probably 15 or so publications that happened since 2012. I have a list of all of them. If you're interested, I can email it to you. But this was paid for by CAPE office with the intent of raising awareness of adult education, promoting adult education, and it was created for 3 regions. The first one is LA, the one with a little bit of yellow there. The one in the middle is Northern Regional, and then the third one is Bay Area. So this is something that you can access. I will provide the links to this, and also use some of those stories, and maybe some of your programs were highlighted in these 3 publications, and they're as recent as the end of December, early January. They also, the main intent is to use it electronically and refer to it like Fontana did, great job. And also there will be some paper ones that will be distributed to 3 regions to CCAE, and then we could use it next time we go in person and meet with our legislators. We could use those paper-based ones. Okay, meeting with your legislators. Many of you have reported that these online meetings that you have done have some advantages. It's not as exciting as walking the hallways of the Capitol, right? And, you know, just that energy around legislation days when we do it in person. I remember Adriana and I did the Washington trip a couple of years ago. It was so exciting. We still talk about that. But also online meetings do have their benefits. The staff, legislative staff, seem to be very responsive, and that seems to work for them as well. You can bring more people. You can bring representatives from students, teachers, administrators, classified staff. You have more time to plan for them. And they can make for a super effective type of visits and meetings. So we highly encourage you to set those up. There is no automated way to do it. So you will have to go to your legislative representatives' website, official website, and email their staff most likely, or pick up the phone and call them to set up that online meeting. I know I think in Washington, they have a process where you can actually do it online for many of the representatives. And so after you do those meetings, we're hoping that you will tell CCAE about it. If you participated in previous years during the Ledge Days, Victoria would do an orientation, and then she passed out a paper form that she asked you to fill out and then leave with her and Dawn so that they can do some follow-up. And actually, I'm going to turn it over to Victoria so she can talk about it a little bit. Sorry, you're muted still.
Thought I had undone it. Thank you. So quickly, yes, this is such an important form. As Branka said, we've transitioned to the online form. Dawn relies on these. I used to highlight in particular key items that you listed after your ledge visits with your legislators at the state capitol. In particular, any follow-up that's needed. Do we need to talk to them about a specific subject? Were there questions that you weren't able to answer or weren't sure about? And then Dawn and I, but especially Dawn even on her own, will determine how to reach back, circle back to those legislators. So we're really pleased to have this now available to you in a much easier form and format to be accessed and used. And it doesn't have to be just for a single visit. It's for any visits, one form per visit. But as many visits as you make, please fill out a form. It's pretty simple to do. And thank you, Branka, for helping with that.
You're welcome. Okay, a few more minutes left and people have to leave for their classes and meetings at 1. So I want to make sure I close this out. This is a big shout to Patricia Bradshaw, who is our ledge chair in our northern section. Every year she makes those appointments. She picks up the phone, she emails, and she sets a number of appointments with our representatives. Of course, we can't do it this year, but we're really looking forward to when we can do it all in person again. But I also wanted to share a strategy from our region, which is she is setting up these right now. And instead of having it for only her school, Charles A. Jones Career Skills and Career Center with Sacramento Unified School District, she's inviting anybody in the region, all the adult schools, if they'd like to participate, they could join for these time slots. So we can have representation from various schools. That way, that person who's already really good at doing it can be doing it for everybody, and it's going to be a greater impact when you have stories from multiple adult schools. So it's a strategy for us this year. And I also wanted to share with you that we will have a handout with links, as I've been promising. If you go to this bit.ly, if you copy and paste it right now, it's not going to work. It's an empty folder, but it will be available, and we'll also put it in the description on the website so you can see where this bit.ly is, and the short URL shortener, so you can get the link to the handout with all the links to Sacramento News and Reviews and Twitter handles by other adult schools and other relevant information. So that is our presentation by CCAE and ACAIA for different tools and strategies to engage your stakeholders and legislators. Consider contributing to PAC. I believe Dawn talked about it. Don't know, and maybe Steve or Victoria want to say a word or two. Steve.
Sure. So as you know, as a nonprofit organization, CCAE has some certain limitations on what we can do in terms of supporting and advocating certain legislators, advocating for legislators. Like, for example, we might have a champion out there that might need some support in an election, or not necessarily supporting an election, but need us to to maybe come out in support of him, maybe not financial support, but in support of him. So there's things, or maybe there's a dinner that some candidates are having, we want to attend and make sure they understand adult ed is an important service that's provided in California, especially in their area. Though sometimes those events cost money. So these types of funds, these PAC funds, would go to support activities that typically we cannot use our CCAE state funds as a nonprofit organization. So we covet your guys's donations, whatever you can afford. I think it's done on an annual basis. It's not an ongoing. I think correct me if I'm wrong, Adriana, that it starts over every year.
You can do it either way. You can do a one-time contribution, or you can do a payroll deduction. However, well, it'd be a bank deduction. You can do
bank deduction, like a direct bank deduction. And there's information on our website. So every little bit counts. Pam, I see a question about that. I don't know the number right now. We can get an update out there. It'd be nice to have a little thermometer to show how much, set a target and see if we can get some more. But we haven't really tapped into it yet, but we are looking into some activities and events that would fall more under this PAC type spending model or allowance.
Thank you, Steve. And I do have one more slide, and this is more general recommendations. Continue on engaging your stakeholders on ongoing basis. Really, that's what we all have to do, right? Whenever there's a good story, success story, program success story, student story, grab it, capture it, promote it. Also invite community to your classes, programs, and celebrations, even online, right? It's almost easier to do it now than in person. Develop an elevator speech about why you think adult education is important. And also stay in touch with CCAE. And I'm providing 2 more resources at the national level: COABE's Move Ahead with Adult Ed, Educate and Elevate, and then Pro Literacy's Advocacy Toolkit that was just published recently. And again, please use K-12, support K-12 Adult Ed as a hashtag, and make those meetings, and see you in April, if not sooner.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Branka, Steve, and Victoria, for the wealth of information. And actually, thank you, participants, for a lot of information and good suggestions and ideas and questions that you have provided for us. I'd like to remind you, as many of you already asked, and I mentioned before, yes, the webinar is recorded and will be available on the CCAE website with Branka's resources and her slides. And it will be emailed to members as well. So thank you, Branka, Victoria, and Steve, and participants, for all of your support. And we look forward to working with you and seeing you in the upcoming months, hopefully, as Branka's slide said, sometime in person. But in the meantime, we're still working together, and that's important to remember and know. Thank you so much.